Hi, this is my cultural self-analysis. What do you identify as your national origin, ethnic identity, and racial group? My ethnicity is both African American as well as Mexican American. I do consider myself biracial. I was born with, or I was, identify with both ethnic groups, but I was born and raised in the US. My race is black. Here are my parents, and there's me. In what geographic region did you grow up? Did you live in a rural or urban environment? What values are typical of that region? So I am from California. I was born in Torrance, California, which is in Southern California. I spent most of my childhood living in Hawthorne. It was very urban environment, liberal values, very densely populated. There was a lot of culture, and we lived near the beach, so that was fun to spend a lot of time at the pier. Then I moved to Mesa, Arizona in 2000. It was a huge culture shock to me. Everything seemed so spread out. It's lots of dirt, a lot less grass and trees. It just felt a lot more rural than Hawthorne. When we first moved out here, there was just a whole lot of nothing. We lived on the border of Apache Junction and East Mesa. It was not very diverse, like at all. I was the only black kid in my entire school, so that was really rough. And the school that I went to and just the area that I lived in growing up just seemed it had a lot of uh, very Christian conservative uh, people, and just seemed like those were the values of that area. Here are pictures of like the movie theater that I spent time at. There was a water park my friend worked at, and then here are the Superstition Spring Mountains. Why and how did you or your ancestors come to the United States? In what ways did you or they adjust to this new home? And so my ancestors on my mother's side, I know that they were Isleta Native American, which is Southern Tiwa Native American, and they were from El Paso. Um, I know that she also had ancestors from Spain. Um, and I know that like my grandmother grew up very poor, and I know that her parents grew up very poor. There's lots of superstition and religion, lots of like little rituals that my family believed in. I know that they practiced like a lot of like uh, sort of Catholic witchcraft type stuff. So there was lots of really interesting stories growing up, and lots of stories that got passed down from generation to generation. So that's a very cool part of my culture. I also know that um, in order to adjust to moving to the States, they weren't allowed to speak Spanish, so a lot of the language was lost. My mom speaks it, my aunts and uncles speak it, my cousins and I speak very little, but are definitely not fluent, and so it was kind of unfortunate. As far as my ancestors on my paternal side, on my dad's side, I know that they came here as slaves. They eventually somehow migrated to Miami, Florida. I do know that my nanny, my dad's mom's family owned land. Um, and I do know that my grandfather joined the army to escape Klansmen that were looking for him. So it's pretty crazy. Um, I would like to point out, though, that in terms of my ancestors on my dad's side, there's just so much history that's lost there due to slavery, and just a lot we don't know about like what country they originated from. So here is my grandma's. They are my closest ancestors. Neither one of them are living now, but I was very, very close to them, and and I feel a lot of who I am is because of them. So my maternal grandmother, she was born and raised in El Paso, Texas, and she moved to Lenox, California in the 1940s. Her parents were from Chihuahua, Mexico, and they migrated to Texas for work. Um, and then my dad's mom, my nanny, she was born and raised in Miami, Florida, and she moved to Gardena, California in the 1970s, and I'm not sure where her parents were from. What aspects of you or their origin, culture of origin were retained? So when I think of my culture, I think of family traditions that are still upheld. For my family, on both sides of my family, that just means food. So every year, my family has a tradition where we all get together and we make tamales for Christmas. And then we make menudo for New Year's Eve. So here's a picture of like my family, my brothers and sisters, and some nieces and nephews, like sitting around a table. This is actually at my place, and we're all helping make tamales. So that's a tradition that an aspect of our culture that we've upheld. And then here's some food. I love to cook. Something a part of who I am that I try to keep going in our family is making like traditional recipes and also tweaking them to be vegan and vegetarian and just healthy. So, what impact does this way of entering the United States and the subsequent adjustment have on your culture and on your identity? So, growing up, there was always a feeling of scarcity, and I am on my mom's side specifically, and I feel like that had a lot to do with my grandparents just growing up very poor, and their parents probably coming to this country and having to sort of really pinch pennies to really take care of the whole family. Being immigrants and not speaking the language. So this is something that still kind of exists in my family, is like this feeling of there not being enough. My mom definitely still hoards food. Um, my grandparents did work very hard. They were also very sexist and misogynistic. My mom wasn't allowed to go to college because of this, because she was a woman, and a woman's place was to be at home raising kids. Um, because of this, it's definitely made um, my mom really push her kids to not have those same ideas of how men and women are supposed to be. Um, I don't know a lot about my dad's family and ancestors. Aside from him and my grandmother. Um, but she was very religious, and I know that's something that was passed down to her from her parents. And it definitely helped me to feel connected to my spirituality. So all of this has affected me mostly in that I want to be the best version of myself because I have all of these great opportunities that my ancestors didn't have. Um, so I am very proud of my roots. This is some of my beautiful niece and nephews. Um, yeah, I have like a beautiful, very diverse family. So I'm very proud of that. So that's it. Thank you.